And within the city of Edmonton, even I have taught the Indigenous awareness program within the city employees for about the last 5 years. And we've done thousands of city employees. We've talked about the residential schools here in Canada and just teach them a little bit about that and what happened with the history of the residential schools, the truth and reconciliation of it, and just teach a little bit of our part so they have a lot of understanding of where we come from and who we are as a peoples. Yeah, so we talk about how the residential schools had started in Canada and what their kind of mandate was of what they were to do, and ultimately the mandate was to kill the Indian and the child, make them assimilate to the white culture. So they were taken from their homes, sent to a residential school to stay for however long they were. Most were 6 when they were 6, 7, 8 was when they were taken to go, and you went until you actually turned 16. And then once you turned 16, that was it. You were just kind of out the door, and you were left to go on your own. So we had they had those 10 years that they were there to try and teach them, lose their language, lose their culture and their ways of who they were, and to, again, try to assimilate them to the white culture, as you would say, to make them not know their culture to and their teachings and their ways. Well, once they've hit 16 years old and they're kind of out the door, that's it, you're done. A lot of them were not in their home communities. They were sent far away from their home communities where they were and just left out on the streets and just to kind of fend for themselves. So these people had turned, and a lot of not really knowing any, because you were taken away from your family, so you're not knowing who your family is or who you are as a person, and so you're kind of left out on the street to kind of fend for yourself ultimately. So a lot of these people had turned to, have been in homelessness and turned to the drugs and alcohol to kind of, you could say, mask the pain of what went on in residential schools and what happened to them there. And they really had no place to turn or no one to turn to. There wasn't a whole lot. Still to this day, there still isn't a whole lot of people or a lot of resources for a lot of these people to turn to. So a lot of them, just were left on the street, and that's what that's what kind of what it was the drugs and alcohol to help them deal with that pain. That if they did go back to their communities, even their parents themselves were residential school survivors and weren't taught, don't know who these kids are, don't get to see a lot of them, don't know how to be parents themselves. So a lot of it was they didn't know. It was just them trying to, kind of navigate the day by day and not knowing how to deal with the pain and the anguish from it all. And that's a lot of it is they had turned to, whatever they could to help deal with that pain, whether it be that, like I said, the drugs or the alcohol or whatever it was to kind of help them deal with it. So as a society, that is a big thing in the Indigenous community, is a lot of people don't know how to deal with it, and that they do turn to the drugs and alcohol to help them deal with that, because there is no place to turn to talk to or any place for them to an outlet for them. The city of Edmonton was definitely a leader in recognizing and doing this part of, this was part of the Truth and Reconciliation from the calls to action. So the city was a definite leader in doing the education process. And, there is, the government of Alberta, the government of Canada are doing starting to do that, and then we're starting to get into that healing process. But there is definitely a long way to go, and there definitely needs to be more resources out for these people to help them. And but a lot of people are very reluctant to turn to these people, even just to open up to them, because the past trauma from these people that they thought they could trust, and this should be somebody that you should be able to turn to for help, and the stuff that has happened they haven't been able to. So there is that reluctancy there for them to open up and trust someone or seek that help, right?